Miami wins 10-3 in College Station, knocking off the Aggies and taking them out of the playoffs. This game was down to the wire. Last drive decided it, and for it being that close of a game, I heard a lot of negative things about it. I don't know about you, but I heard that it was unwatchable, that it was a joke, that it was just a terrible game. And, as an offensive person, maybe you thought it was terrible, but me personally, I loved it. I thought it was great to just see a close game and that caliber athlete on the field for both teams. Yeah, if you're like scoring, if you're an offensive person, it was rough. There was a total of 4 missed field goals in this game. Also 10 total drives, 5 for each team that crossed the 50-yard line and resulted in 0 points. Yeah, it was rough offensively, but let me just read you the drive charts. For Miami, it was punt, 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 missed field goal, halftime. They come out, field goal, missed field goal, punt, fumble, touchdown, end of game. And then for A&M, you had punt, fumble, punt, missed field goal, punt, turnover on downs, halftime, interception, punt, field goal, punt, interception, end of game. So it was a rough offensive output, to say the least, but I feel like the win was a huge factor in the score being what it was for both the offensive, for both the passing and the kicking game. It was very evident in the kicking game. Obviously, you get the shot from behind the goalpost of the ball going left to right across your screen, or right to left across your screen, depending on which field goal post you were at. And you could see from the beginning in the pregame ceremonies, when they had the Texas A&M student out there kicking, the ball would move. It moved like 20 yards from left to right, and it was only like a 30-yard field goal, and the ball moved that much. And so I knew from the get-go it was going to be a huge factor in this game. And then much less notably in the passing game, it was a big deal because, Carson Beck, well, God knows he's not perfect. We're all not perfect. But I've seen him make some really good throws. And earlier in the season, he would consistently hit some throws that I saw today that were way off. And it was like a fade route to C.J. Daniels in the end zone. It was like 6 to 8 yards to the left of him. Like, it wasn't even close. He didn't even have a chance to catch it. And he's not a good quarterback by a lot of people's standards, but not that bad. And so I knew there was a lot of wind pushing sideways the passes, especially if it had any loft on it. Like, a lot of the line drives you could get by, it'd be a little off, but if you really drove it and put it on a rope, you could get it to where you were trying to get it to. But anything that had loft on it, it was affected greatly. The flags up top and on the top of Kyle Field, they were whipping the entire game. I thought the 3 biggest differences in this game were, number one, I thought Texas A&M not being able to get explosive plays and resulting in touchdowns was a huge deal. They had 2 plays that went for 10 plus yards and 3 that went for 15 plus, and 0 of them were for touchdowns. And one of those even included a 59-yard gain on a bomb to Mario Craver, and that one wasn't a touchdown. And that drive didn't even result in a touchdown. And that was a stat category coming in that I knew would be a huge decider in who won this game, because A&M relies heavily on play action to hit their deep shots in the passing game and get big gains. They rely on the play action, which means they therefore rely on the run game to set up the play action. And they never really established a really good run game against this Miami front. They started out, they had some good runs, like the first drive or two, and then most of it from there forth was just Marshall Reed taking off on scrambles. But even then, they ended up with only 89 yards. That's including sack yardage, but they ran the ball 35 times for 89 yards. That's only 2.5 yards per carry. Like, sack adjusted, they had 119, which was 4.3 per carry. Not great. And the problem was most of that 119 came in the first quarter, came like at the beginning, and then Miami figured out how to get off these blocks and stuff the run, and they did that. So that inhibited the play action game, which is where they get a lot of their offense from. A lot of the explosive pass plays comes from the play action, which is set up by the run. They stuffed the run, didn't really have good play action looks, convincing play action looks, because Miami knew it was coming. So that was a key part of this game. And then secondly, Mark Fletcher, who is an absolute dog, just took over this game in the fourth quarter. Like, there was a lot of Miami fans early in the preseason, before the season started. In the offseason, they were saying, Mark Fletcher's a dog. He's going to show out, like, even more than Damian Martinez did last year, who was the Oregon State transfer that came in. So Fletcher didn't really see a ton of time. And I knew I'd seen him play a couple times. Like, he was a solid back, but I didn't think he was anything, like, super special. And then, like, this game, he just showed it. And for a lot of the game, he didn't, because he didn't have a whole lot of opportunities. But then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, Shannon Dawson, is it Shane Dawson? Shannon Dawson. Dawson realizes that, oh, we have a dog back there behind the quarterback. In the backfield, we have however big he is, he's really big and quite muscular. And we can just give the ball to him and let him run over and carry 5 guys. And that's exactly what they did. In the fourth quarter, he had 6 rushes for 91 yards. That's, if you were wondering, an average of 15.2 yards per carry, which is crazy. And I know it's just one quarter, and it includes an outlier in the 56-yard run but like that run was huge. Like, it completely flipped the game. They were on their own 14-yard line, like backed up in their own territory. And Texas A&M had just had one of the best drives of the day to that point. Didn't get any points out of it, of course. And then first play from that drive, just Mark Fletcher bust one for 56 yards. Won't let anybody tackle him. Like, he finally gets dragged down at the 30, but like, he was just manhandling this DB for Texas A&M. And so he was like, that was the game, in my opinion. It was him, and it was clutch defense that were what gave Miami the win down the stretch and proved to be crucial. Lastly, I want to highlight how, Carson Beck, I know a lot of y'all don't like him, 0 interceptions and 1 touchdown. Now, this touchdown was a flip to Malachi Toney, so basically a jet sweep, but they counted in the books as a passing touchdown. And then Marcel Reed, 2 interceptions, 0 touchdowns. That stat category can tell you, according to the coaches, that would have basically told you the game before the game started, if you had known that, because coming into the game, they both said basically whoever makes the least amount of mistakes quarterback-wise, that team will win the game. And Beck had 0 interceptions, crazy, and Marcel Reed had 2. Beck only had 103 yards on 14 for 20 passing, and while Marcel Reed had 237 on 25 for 39 passing, but ultimately the 2 interceptions are what decided the game. I also want to shout out the play by Mohamed Toure, the play before the interception in the end zone. He was at linebacker, and they threw a short ball to Ruben Owens right at the goal line, and if he catches it, they get a touchdown. They either go for 2 to win it or tie it up with an extra point. And he just lays the boom on this guy. Like, he just knocks the ball right out of his hands. Great pass breakup, great reaction, and also subsequent hit. And that, basically saved their chances to win the game. And he basically laid his body on the line. Like, you saw him down on the field afterward, just laying there. I don't know what was hurting or what happened there, but just praying for him that he will be healthy to go for this Ohio State game, and that he's okay, because that was a very laid it out there for his teammates type of deal, and I love to see that, and I can't wait to watch him in the Ohio State game, because he just played really good football. Also, the subsequent interception afterward, like it was just when Miami needed to make the plays to win the game, they did. They had the Mark Fletcher in the fourth quarter performance, and then they had the clutch defense once Miami or Texas A&M had their best drive of the game and drove the length of the field all the way to like the 15. They had like a pass breakup by Thomas. They had the pass breakup by Torre, and then they had the interception in the end zone. And yeah, just when they needed it, they got it done. Moving forward, Miami plays Ohio State next. Obviously, this game will be indoors, so as long as they don't open the roof in Jerry World, I can confirm that there won't be any outside wind affecting the passes. So, good news for Carson Beck. You heard it here first. I have a tough time seeing them score anyway because Matt Patricia's defense is just a nightmare for a lot of quarterbacks. And he's going to, I mean, if Indiana only scored 13 points on Ohio State, then I can't imagine Miami having a whole lot of success against this defense. That game will be New Year's Eve. It'll be the only game of the playoff that day. And then, the 3 games on New Year's. And then the whole explosive play thing, I thought Miami would limit those explosive plays. I also saw how Texas A&M was playing down the stretch, and like honestly, if you're a Texas A&M fan, like you kind of probably saw it coming because down the stretch of the season, the South Carolina game in the first half, you saw that offense, and then you also saw the offense against Texas. Those two offenses they couldn't sustain drives very well. They didn't score a whole lot of points. I mean, in the South Carolina game, they didn't score any points in the first half. And then Texas, they only scored 17. So they really struggled to sustain offense down the stretch. So I think it was easy to see coming, and that's why I picked Miami. I didn't necessarily think that they were worlds better than A&M, but I thought that offense, if they could limit the explosive plays with those two, especially with the sacks in the second half, Akeem Mesidor. I mean, like Ruben Bain gets a lot of the praise and the glory this season, but Akeem Mesidor is like low key one of my favorite pass rushers. Like he was killing it. He was doing a lot of the work for that defense to get. They had 7 sacks. I'm not sure how many were from Mesidor, how many were from Bain, but like I mean, they just terrorized them in the second half, and that's kind of what I thought. I thought the Miami defense was pretty stout, and I didn't think worlds of the Miami offense, but I knew they had Malachi Tony who could just like get them at least a touchdown on some explosive play. He almost had it on that punt return, and I knew that Texas A&M was very reliant on the explosive play. So if they could continue not having great explosive plays that went for touchdowns, then I thought Miami would inch this one out, and that's exactly what they did. I didn't expect the score to be this low, but I did expect them to win. Put it in my bracket. So now I'm 4-0 in my bracket because James Madison and Tulane lost. If you're a Texas A&M fan, I'm sure it sucks. Like winning so many games this season, they only lost one game, won 11-1. So have such a good regular season in the SEC too, and to just like you don't even make the SEC championship, and the first game you play in the postseason, you're out. And it was at home, and it was a great environment, and just like that, it's over. So that obviously stinks. Honestly, if I'm a Texas A&M fan, I'm kind of questioning if Marcel Reed's the guy. Like down the stretch, he looked very human. That he was in Heisman talks earlier in the season. Towards the end, it was a lot of missed balls. Like not a lot of missed balls, but missed balls here and there. Except a South Carolina game, it was a lot of missed balls. But like just missed balls for interceptions here and there, inopportune offense. And he still has a lot of talent. Like he can throw the ball. He can throw a good ball. He can also run the ball really well. And so I don't know. I'm assuming he comes back. He's got more eligibility. I know Craver they just re-signed. I don't know about Concepcion yet, but we'll see what they become during the offseason. But yeah, just a great environment once again. Great environment. What I love about college football, the tradition, the pageantry, the huge stadiums that just you don't see pretty much anywhere else around the world. Like 104,000 people, all waving towels. It was beautiful. The bracket is still perfect, like I said. So we'll see if we can keep that up. I'm about to head to church. Y'all have a great rest of your Sunday if I get this out by Sunday. If not, have a great week coming up, and God bless.